I don't know what it is, but I just love being black. DJ here.
What up, doe? It's your girl Blair. You know, my melanin was popping yesterday. It's popping today, and it's sure enough gonna be popping tomorrow.
It's your boy Red, and you're listening to the Highly Melanated Podcast.
Hey, motherfuckers. Welcome back to another episode of Highly Motherfucking Melanated. That's some nigga shit right there. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Highly Melanated here, where it is safe to...
I'm still with the niggas and nigglets.
You know what? It's safe for you niggas and nigglets and niggerinos. And all of the versions of us.
What is a niggerino?
What is a niggerino?
Of us African American blacks, colored people, Negroes.
All I'm gonna think when I see like a Pellegrino now is niggerino.
Look, I keep thinking the same thing, or like some type of pasta.
Listen,
right?
With somebody on the package, be like, "Hey." Tongue out. Again, it's a safe place for you guys to just come here, chill, have a great, healthy meal, and go about your day. PJ is tired. No, actually, PJ is about to grab his brass knuckles and knock out anybody who's got anything to say or do against my friends, both Red and Blair.
Oh, wait a minute. Who popped off?
I don't know. I just wanted to put that out there right now because it's Black History Month, and what you not going to do. Remember how you said before, a strong boundary for you is don't disrespect my friends. That's the same one for me. So guys, just as long as y'all know, ain't nobody done it yet. Y'all better not do it at all. Okay. I love y'all.
You have been warned.
Wow. I'm happy that I have to realize that I have this kind of reinforcement back there, handled some of my light work. Red, I think I saw a meme or some article somewhere that says that they have legalized nunchucks in New York. Red.
Ooh.
So, cowabunga, dude.
You know what's hilarious? The timing of that, because I legit just watched Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and 2 on Netflix last week.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Reliving nostalgia.
Teenage Mutant.
You guys don't even understand. Like, that was like my brother's and mine childhood. Blair, Nuck if you buck, is also here. Because we knucking and bucking and
ready to fight. Look, we knucking and we bucking and we ready to fight. Oh, I didn't turn off my camera.
I was about to say, you done the freaking screen off.
Knucked and bucked himself into darkness.
And as always, guys, you can follow us on Instagram, such as, which would be, maybe it's called, and it is Highly Melanated Podcast on Instagram.
It is correct. And if you just add @gmail.com after that, you'll have our email address.
And you can't just add or @ anything, but at Twitter, it's H_melanated pods. Come on over and get some fighting lessons in. First rule of Fight Club.
Why are we so
Fight Club
today?
I don't know what it is.
What is going on? What is this energy that we are like feeling right now? Because all of us is like up in arms. We're over here talking about nunchucks and you can try my friends if you want to. Like, what is the, come on, PJ, I need like, what is the moon and the star? Are we in like retro nigger grade?
You know what? Let me look that up as we're talking.
Retro nigger grade.
I'm sorry, because this energy just don't appear for no reason. That's what I'm gonna call it. You don't have to look it up. We in retro nigga grade.
Not the retro nigga grade.
That's what we in. I'm gonna get that copyrighted, FYI.
Oh my god! Now I'm
sweating. It's a very plausible thing because normally we have to warm up, but we just coming out.
We came in swinging.
We swag surfing right now. You know what? All right. So every week, guys, we're introducing this thing. Again, this is our melanated moment. And here's why. I got one for this week, if it's okay with y'all too.
Permission has been granted by the highly melanated court.
Let's do it.
Come on, counsel in court. Yes, we remember you guys. So let's just say that PJ is a teacher, right? Is a teaching artist at a school, right? And let's just have a melanated moment for one of my students who quickly corrected my co-teacher. I'm teaching them podcasting, right? And it's so interesting because I'm teaching them podcasting, but it's also an anti-gun violence program. And so in the midst of me doing this, oh my God, I got hold, please.
Oh my.
It gave me gas. That's how I felt. That's how I feel. Okay. So I'm showing them about the Second Amendment and the 14th Amendment because we all know what the Second Amendment is. That's the right to bear arms and blah, blah, blah against a militia. That's not whatever, and how it's changed throughout the years. And then how the 14th Amendment is about how after slavery was abolished, air quotations,
I would say abolished. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. We just translate into different forms of slavery. Right. But how it was abolished and how that amendment is supposed to give us our civil and equal rights, as we all know. Yeah. So I was trying to explain it to the students, and the students were listening. Now, my co-teacher, she's a wonderful person. And this is the thing, and she does subscribe to the podcast. Hey, girl. So I wanted to actually say this because I'm gonna say this to her when I see her again.
Oh, you haven't said it already?
No, not yet.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh boy.
So I'm gonna say it again since she's hearing it now for the first time.
So you better. Oh, exactly. You better say it to her before this episode comes out.
No, I don't. I won't see her till Friday. So we might have something to talk about then. I will say to her again, just as the student corrected you, I need you to realize that you are, even though you're from India, you too are brown. You too are affected by many of these laws that actually would affect you when they look at you and see a brown person. Now, again, I understand that some things that they're not in the same category as us, but they are. Now, she corrected me and then corrected incorrectly what I was saying, and then made the conversation about gender. The melanated moment I have is to one of my students, and I cannot say her name because she is obviously a minor, but shout out to you. She got up and she said, I don't think that's fair, and I don't think that's right. We as Black people have been held down for too long, for too much, for someone to say that part has no bearing in the argument. She used big words too. This is a 7th grader, right? Because my co-teacher jumped at it at a different angle and took it somewhere. And I was like, what this is my lesson today. Shut the fuck, sit down. Wow. So I am still in the knucking and bucking mode.
I see. So
I came home.
Catalyst to this.
I came home. It is. I came home. I was knucking and bucking on the bus. I was knucking and bucking in Subway. I was knucking and bucking in Popeyes.
Knucking and bucking on the 2 train.
I was knucking and bucking when I saw my what's that lady called? The mail carrier. Because I asked her, do you have anything for him? She said, I will get to you in a moment. I said, listen here. Okay, I just asked you a simple question, and it is not my fault that you are angry because you are walking around in this cold weather. Now, you don't have an attitude with me because I didn't have one with you. I smiled and asked you a damn question. Now, I'm going to ask you again. Do you have anything for my apartment number? Oh, please. And she did. Okay, so I am knucking and I'm bucking, and bitch, I'm ready to fight.
Oh, my.
And
that's the end. And see, and this, it's got me all boiled up. I was
gonna say, I think we need to do some deep cleansing breaths.
I did. I took a nap.
I think that we need.
I felt it in my chest. Hypertension is a real thing.
Calming music and just kind of relax and release. Maybe say some affirmations.
Yeah, let's do the local colloquialism. Nam yo ho renge kyo hom.
Nam yo ho renge kyo. Num your whole reggae. Num your whole reggae.
Why are we saying that? Does anybody know what that actually means?
No.
We have to. I think we all have to go back to the movie and see.
Right. I was gonna say, because we over here saying chants and don't know what they mean. I don't know if that's necessarily something we should be doing. I mean, I'm sure it's not anything terrible, but it's good to know.
I will change it. I will change it, and I will go back to the affirmation that I used to say before that, and I still do say it. Shout out to Amanda Chambers. For those of you who are looking for a podcast that gives daily affirmations, she is one of my clients. I produce her podcast. It is called the Let Go of Less podcast. And she has one that came out just last week. I'm sorry, just yesterday. That's titled, yesterday, by the time you guys hear this, it came out on February 7th. It is titled, I Do Not Seek Revenge. I Let Karma and the Universe Handle It.
Pretty much. That's my mantra.
Karma does people in.
I'm not out here trying to handle nothing. It's not my job to exact any type of revenge. What's for me is for me, and what's for you is for you, and everything will right itself, and I ain't worry about it.
The end. Okay. Well, while we're on that, and we're putting in some enlightenment, let's do a question of the week. Your questions as they pertain to you prospectively and introspectively. So here's my latest thing that I had put out and I posed to everybody else, and maybe this might provide some knucking and bucking as well, but it's definitely some food.
I mean, you might as well keep the theme going.
Look, we knucking and we bucking and we ready to fight. That's it. It's Black History Month. I'm gonna knock a nigga out.
Listen,
but not a nigga. I'm gonna knock a non-melanated person out. I feel really militant. I'm sorry. Let me.
I see. Shut the fuck up, nigga. Like what the hell? As I was saying,
y'all should see Blair's face right now.
I'm sorry.
I'm going to sip on this
retro nigga grade.
It's the retro nigga grade, y'all.
Of PJ.
You know what I want to know? I want to know. Question of the week, guys. How do you feel about everything that's been going on with Whoopi's statements and race? I mean, we can go on and on and on and on about it, but like really quickly, what are you feeling?
Okay, so here's the thing with that. I haven't paid direct attention to this story. I've been getting indirect attention from this story information. So I didn't see the video of the original issue, aka what Whoopi Goldberg said. What I have seen on social media is everybody's reaction to it, and I heard that she got suspended. So I need to do more. I need to do some more education. I need to educate myself more on the entire situation. But from what I have pieced together from the information that I have gotten, it seems like what she said was misconstrued, and the point of what she was articulating was not received, and people are offended because they're not listening to what it was she actually said, but they're more so listening to their interpretation of what it was that she said, and people are getting their feelings hurt over it. But from what I can understand, again, from the reactions that I've gotten, is like, I actually saw one person's reaction on TikTok. It was from a Jewish woman. And she was like, I don't understand why everybody's all up in arms over Whoopi, because I understand what she said and I agree with her. And basically she was saying, like, as a, Jewish woman who looks white, I have, like the cloak of whiteness, and I can pass as white. And so like people look at me and they see a white woman, they don't see a Jewish woman. But Black people don't get that same treatment. Like you look at a Black person and you know that they're a Black person. Again, like I said, I have to go back and educate myself on the actual conflict at hand. But I think that this is the reaction and the suspension and all that is always, I think it's what happens. It's a knee-jerk reaction. People's feelings get hurt and they're like, oh, we gotta cater to the people whose feelings got hurt. But there isn't people aren't taking the opportunity to really break down and understand what it was that she was saying and what the point is of what they were saying. I think that they're stuck in my feelings are hurt and I need to be catered to because my feelings are hurt.
Okay, so in the moment of trying to catch everybody up, here is a clip of what was said.
Well, also, if you're going to do this, then let's be truthful about it, because the Holocaust isn't about race. No, it's not about race.
But it's about white supremacy.
It's not about
ideal race.
But these are two white groups of people.
Well, how do we after black people
see them as white?
But you're missing the point. You're missing the point. The minute you turn it into race, it goes down this alley. Let's talk about it for what it is. It's how people treat each other.
Okay. All right. I do have an opinion then. The opinion I have, I appreciate her saying that. I understand where she was going with it. I think we all know that there is a certain group of people that are in control of media. And there are certain things that you probably can and cannot say, even though we have the freedom of speech. And there are certain things that do happen that they do now pick on us for. I feel like this is like going to be now the next Janet Jackson for this. This has the potential to be that, even though I believe what she was saying. And when I say the next Janet Jackson, I'm talking about Nipplegate. Shout out to those of you. Shout out to those of you who saw the amazing documentary, Janet. Loved it. Now, I do agree where she's coming from, because I don't think the Holocaust itself. See, here's the thing. I still go by the same thing in reference to race. There is no such thing as race. We are the human race. Then there's broken down into ethnicities. So the whole idea of race, like the words obviously means nothing, right? But what she's trying to say is, from what I gather, and I'm gonna have to listen to it again and again and really go deeper into it. But from what I gather, it's really more of how we treat each other from man to man to man to man. Again, it's interesting to me, and this is probably going to be a little problematic. And hey, I've said it. Blair, would you like to give the disclaimer?
Whatever the PJ's about to say is the thoughts of PJ Ryan and PJ Ryan alone. If you have an issue with it, take it up with PJ Ryan.
Okay, take it up with me. You can go ahead and follow me and come after me if you like to. Please don't, because I tell you, we have already proved that we are knucking and we're bucking, and I'm ready to fight. So, damn it, now I lost my train of thought. So, what I think that the idea of it's convenient when Jewish people want to be Jewish and not want to be white. So I think that part of the conversation is interesting to me, especially since Jewish is not a race or an ethnic background. It is a religion. Okay, so you can be a Black Jewish person. But when you say I'm a Black Jewish person, you still say, no, you're Black. Anybody can convert into Judaism and then be Jewish. Mm-hmm. But that does not change who they are in the color. So I agree with what Whoopi was trying to say. I'm going to look more into it.
I was going to say, I think that this definitely could be a larger conversation. So I don't want to, keep digging into it now, because I know it's not our focus for today. But just listening to that part of the clip, it makes me think, okay, well, then the same philosophy can be applied to slavery. In the fact that slavery, if it's gonna be an apples to apples comparison, then the way that it would be portrayed as slavery wasn't about race; it was about how humans treat other humans, and that translates.
Okay, well, I mean, so here's my thing, and this is the only thing that I had a problem with all of this is I think there needs to be a bigger conversation to be had. And the fact that she's on The View, where The View apparently is the place to have your opinion and voice it,
All the fucked up shit that Megan said. McCain said. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to see. I'm knucking and bucking. I'm calm down.
So here's my thing, though, right? Like, this is the place to do it at. This was a huge opportunity for The View to sit down and really have a discussion in the middle of Black History Month about race and what that is and how people view it. Everybody's going to look at it differently because everybody, it affects everybody differently. I just had a conversation the other day with somebody else. I was describing something to them. I said, "Oh, Spanish food." Like, this is kind of off topic, but I said Spanish food, and they were talking about, well, that's Puerto Rican food, and Puerto Rican is not Spanish. I said, but depending on who you're talking to, they identify, and I say like Puerto Rican people, but I think colloquially people use things differently to describe different things. So I see that happening when it comes to race and religion and how it affects them all the time. Why can't we just have an open discussion about what is, what isn't, so that we're all on the same page? And I think that was like, for The View, I think that was a huge miss for that to be a bigger topic.
Exactly.
Agreed.
Just like I said, it's a knee-jerk reaction. A certain group of people got their feelings hurt, and all of a sudden that becomes the focus. What can we do to, cater to that pain, as opposed to, wait a minute, let's really unpack this. But instead, the reaction was, oh, well, now we got a suspender to make a certain group of people feel better about what happened.
It's always that same group of people that we cannot say things about, but everybody can say things about us.
And that was an argument that somebody else brought up. They said, well, it's not fair because people do that to Black people all the time. And I said, well, unfortunately, that's a different problem in itself. Like, if you really want to like get into the nitty gritty of it, that is a different problem in itself. But I just wish that they use this opportunity to talk about race and what that means. And no one did that. Instead, they just did the knee-jerk reaction. And here you have people. And what's unfortunate about it is that I posted this question of the week on my Instagram page at Acting Regent. But I posted it on there, and I guarantee you a lot of people won't engage me in that topic because it's such a harsh topic and nobody wants to talk about it.
Well, it's sensitive, and people don't want to... Either people are afraid of saying the wrong thing, or they're afraid of saying something and nobody agreeing with them.
Yeah, I understand. So for those of you who want to be more participating within the question of the week, not only can you go to Highly Melanated Podcast, but please follow Red on his Instagram every week.
At Acting Regent.
At Acting Regent.
That's ACTINGREGENT.
He better go ahead and spell it out. Come on, phonetically.
Enunciation happening.
Yeah. If you guys respond, and you're okay with it, we will include your information in the show, based on however Red feels about that. So yeah, I'm looking forward to more engagement with you guys with that. So yeah.
So, I mean, even with all of that being said, speaking for food for thought, let's talk about the topic for today, which is just Black physical wellness and what that looks like. I mean, I think what's interesting is that we're talking about food for thought. And I was just today at work in a primarily or predominantly neighborhood of color. And I always have this issue, and that's the issue of struggling to find something to eat for lunch. Oh my gosh. Because unfortunately, the area that I'm in is a relatively poor neighborhood. And so I always choose from about 3 different things that I could possibly eat. And they're either Chinese food, like this really like, it's like a bagel place, which has like a lot of really doughy, high carb foods, or the pizzeria, which is like also, pizza and dough. They have salads, but I can't see myself eating salads every single day. So sometimes we lack the options in terms of eating the right things because we're just a product of our environment. So I just kind of like wanted to ask you guys, like, have you guys felt like the same thing similarly in your neighborhood? Because I get tired of eating the same thing over and over again.
So I live in a predominantly West Indian. It changes. I live in a part of Flatbush that goes into Midwood. Okay. Shout out to all y'all who know where Midwood actually is in Brooklyn. So it changes from West Indian to Hasidic Jewish. So I am like literally in between. I'm like in the upside down. In the upside down. Okay, for real. You go a block away, and it's literally the fucking upside down. When it comes to like ordering food out, like if I do takeout, the options are very minimal. Because no one comes this far from either direction, unless I'm getting something which is primarily in this one area. And that's either, of course, Chinese food. There are two Chinese food restaurants. One in particular is around the corner for me. I will not eat from there because, okay, sidebar, I'm not a big Chinese food eater in the first place. Because I'm not a fan of General Style Kitten. We've been eating it for years. I really need y'all to know that that's what it is. It's kitten. And there's not that many chickens in the world, so it's really pigeon wings that we're eating.
The look on Blair's face is amazing.
I mean,
listen. So I would rather eat their mock kind of shrimp, which doesn't taste like nothing like shrimp, just shaped like shrimp. So however they do that, at least I know that it's somewhat kind of shrimp or the pigeon or the pigeon wings. But I don't eat from the one around the corner for me because when I get the fried rice, I put vegetables in it, and the only vegetable they put in it is chives. I mean, not chives. It's scallions. Scallions.
Oh my goodness.
Scallions. That's their definition of a vegetable. So the one that's further down, they put more things in there. It actually tastes much better. Further down around is nothing but a bunch of, obviously, since I live closer to the junction here in Brooklyn, Flatbush Junction, there's the typical Popeyes, Panda Express, more General Style Kitten, on a national scale. And there's a few other places, but when it comes to, and then there's West Indian spots. So I have West Indian food for days. So listen, all of a sudden, for days. So there are moments where I like Thai food. That's like when I come up to you and hang out with you, Red. I like coming up to you because I like to order Thai food. I like Thai food. And there's none over here, So yeah, I think that when it comes to like where we live, specifically now, even though I'm like in the in-between, in the upside down, it's still not, because the ones who are like Jewish or Italian have a little bit of an issue coming this far down, even though it's like one or two more blocks.
You know what's so interesting just about like our diet in general is it's all based on a matter of convenience. Like I'm just thinking, like, for example, like the typical, Black, working class household, get up early in the morning at work, especially here in the city. And I'm thinking, I mean, this applies like universally, but like specifically like here in New York, you get up early in the morning, you take the train to wherever it is that you work. You're at work all day on your feet, you're tired, you travel to get back home. But, like you also got to like, make dinner and like all of that stuff. And a lot of times like the food that we eat is basically just out of whatever is the most convenient for us at that time. And a lot of times the most convenient option is not typically the healthiest option. And it takes time and money that we don't necessarily have to eat a healthy, more well-balanced diet. I remember when I used to live in Ohio, that's when I got really big into meal prepping when I lived in Ohio. And I've noticed that as I have moved around, like I moved from Ohio to, Baltimore, here to New York, the areas that I've lived in, and because of the way that I live in a more, urban setting, like I don't have my car anymore. I can't drive out to like the good grocery store, like kind of thing. Like I noticed that like my eating habits have also changed. So it's a matter of like convenience, like I said, and it's a matter of resources. Like the health food and the good, all natural, holistic, grocery stores are not in Black neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. They're not, they're further out. If you, first of all, can find one, they're further out. They're less convenient to get to. So we are less likely to go to them. Like, I even know now for me, like, I do most of my grocery shopping at Trader Joe's, but I have to travel, 45 minutes on the bus to get to the closest Trader Joe's. And that's just not, that's not something that I'm eager to do. I'm excited to do. And it's easy for me to do. So I have to plan around going to the grocery store to get, the foods that I need in order to make the healthy meals that I want to make. And it's not convenient. So yeah, it's easier to just, pop out around the corner to the Chinese food spot across the street, or to the Popeyes that's, right around the corner, and get, whatever it is that's there. So that's the issue. And that's, how do we, as a community, how do we change that? How do we shift that dynamic? How do we make it so that, the foods that are good for us are more accessible to us?
Well, I'm glad that you brought up the whole convenience thing, and then asking the question, like, how do we change it? Because what I'm finding, what I believe and what I see, is that there's two sides of the extremes when it comes to eating healthy, right? Like, so you talk about convenience. So, if you have people who are very lazy and are not really doing much of anything, and then they're more concerned about money, or, that maybe they just don't have the means. Their accessibility is low anyway. So they're still going to eat the bad food. But then you have people who are like us, who I would like to consider that we're like a little bit more busy. We got things that are going on and stuff like that, but we're too busy. And then we leave ourselves to the very bitter end, down to the wire. And then we have to eat something. So we eat all the bad stuff. I mean, there was a day that I was out recently, and I was running around, and I was trying to work on skit stuff and series, and going to friends and talking to them about planning out stuff. And I must have didn't eat anything all day until like about 9 o'clock.
Yo, that's my MO, like, legit.
And I mean, what happened with me was that I was trying to find a place that was, relatively good food. Like you was mentioning, PJ, you like Thai food, and that's a little bit, it has vegetables and stuff like that. But what happened was, midway through, I wound up breaking down, and I marched my ass right into Shake Shack.
Yep.
And I got me a nice fried chicken sandwich.
McDonald's, Popeyes, Burger King,
because it was
Wendy's,
it was
all
quick,
of it.
And I
fast,
ate it.
Easy, convenient, and cheap. That's the biggest thing. It's cheap.
I ate it, and I was so upset that I ate it, because it did not help me out in the long run. It helped out, with maybe the cost wise, it helped out maybe with my hunger in that immediate moment, but it did not help out overall.
So it's so interesting. Okay. One thing, I also I forgot to, because I really was going to mention this in the melanated moment. So let's just backtrack really quick. I also want to give a melanated moment to the fact that I've had Mary J. Blige's Sun Goddess, and my God, today, it is so good. It's so good. Just wanted to rewind that just really back. All right. So let's move fast forward. Just wanted to mention that, because it was the fact that it's hard to actually find that one as well. Now, I can go back to when as you guys know, that I do, I teach podcasting classes, right? And there's this one program that I work for. It's a cure violence program, and it's located in Brownsville. Now, I'm from Brownsville, Brooklyn. And 2 years ago, we were doing everything obviously on Zoom, but one of the questions that I had them all answer was, if you could revitalize your neighborhood, what would you want? What do you have now for choices? And then what do you want? And so one of the things was, what would you want to eat in your neighborhood? And a lot of them, especially young, have no idea really what's out there, because all they see is the Popeyes. All they see is the McDonald's. They don't even, there's no Wendy's in that area. Wendy's is the epsilon of the upper class of fast food.
Also here,
and chicken and
low key is scarce in New York to begin with.
Yeah. So it's interesting. They were talking about like they want like Applebee's and things like this, and they've never eaten, and who can blame them, because a lot of these kids don't never really go outside of their neighborhood, or maybe they might, like if in Brownsville alone, they'll center around East New York, Brownsville, Bed-Stuy, Bushwick. Those are the areas that are surrounding it, and this is pretty much as far as you may go growing up, or however you grow up, or however you want to go, because that's where all your friends are from. Because no one is really bused to the schools that are in the hood unless you're already in the hood. We are bussed out of the hood to other schools to try to get, a better education, more quality of life, different advantages, different opportunities. And I could remember them actually saying that a lot of them like have never had like squash before, or like these random things that we think that everybody should have. But because in their area, if you go into a chicken shack, which number one, we all know what chicken shack is. And when I started working at this other school, and I didn't have anything to eat, and I would like make sure I try to get something, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to walk into a chicken shack and I'm going to get a couple of pieces of chicken. When I say the amount of grease that was in that chicken, like when I say my stomach said, oh, really, bitch? Oh, this is what we doing? Okay. Give me a few minutes. And because I'm not used to eating that, it really upset my stomach. And to think that in certain areas, this is all that they have to eat, because not all they have to eat, but these small options that are so few. And there's a chicken shack in every hood, and all chicken shack chicken tastes exactly the same. Greasy. It is quite good. But not gonna lie, but it's just really not healthy for you. And some of the chicken itself is not even new chicken. Some of the chicken is older, spoiled chicken. Some of the chicken has been dropped on the floor, been put back in the fire. People don't really like. There are so many different things that happen in our neighborhood that don't happen in other people's neighborhoods.
So all of this is making me think, and again, like this kind of speaks to the original inspiration behind the podcast, in the sense that all of us kind of come from, similar but different Black experiences. And I want to ask you guys, so there's, as we're having this conversation about food, there is the ongoing, forever, back and forth debate on soul food. And, is it good for you? Is it not good for you? All of that. And I think like when I'm speaking of soul food, like I think like we all can kind of agree on just like, like what a typical soul food plate would look like. You got the mac and cheese, you got the collard greens, you got the candied yams, you got, what else are you guys throwing on your soul food plate? Like typical soul food foods, like what's on the plate?
You're asking?
Yes, I'm asking. It's part of my question.
Okay.
Collard greens, candy yams, mac and cheese.
Collard greens, candy yams, mac and cheese.
Black-eyed peas.
Black-eyed peas. Just like, so when we think of soul food, we think of, food that nourishes the soul, but we also know that it's typically not always the healthiest of foods in the way that it is prepared. So my question to you guys is, how often now and while you were growing up did you have soul food?
Not often, because remember my mom is of Jamaican background, so I had more Caribbean food than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
is there like, what would you say is like the Caribbean equivalent to soul food?
I mean, everything. I mean, it's very closely related in terms of like how it's made. It's just like the meats tend to be.
So how often would you say that you had that growing up? Like in the sense of like, we're talking about like a typical, like what we picture as like a soul food plate of food, and equate that to, Caribbean food. Like how often were you eating that growing up?
I think it changed. So when I was younger, it was a lot more often. I want to say 2 to 3 times a week, but then maybe a little bit more. But then as we got older, a lot of stuff changed the way that we ate food.
And why do you think that changed?
I think because the adults changed. I think the adults realized I can't keep eating this all the time. Like, this is ridiculous, you know, because with Caribbean food, we're very heavy handed when it comes to the carbs. Like, we will give you a plate of like rice and be like,
rice.
Here's your strip of chicken.
Rice and peas.
You know,
that covered a whole damn plate.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think after a while, you just can't eat like that anymore. I mean, quite frankly, I don't even want to eat like that now. Like when I have, let's just say I eat rice and peas with oxtail and, you know, whatever, and plantains, I will eat probably all the oxtail. I probably will eat the plantains. I probably will eat the cabbage, but the rice is typically left over, some of it, because it's just so much.
So interesting, right? So I'm glad you went this direction, because when we talked about having this conversation, you know, doing our own research, right? So I have a lot of things that were already pinned up. And so I started doing like just research and reference in general. Then I saw these like questions. You know how Google asks these questions, and it says, "What type of food do African Americans eat?" Okay, African American. Okay, and this is by CUNY. This is by a CUNY school.
Which CUNY?
York.
Blast. Not York College.
Not
okay.
York College.
Okay, and it says African Americans typically choose foods such as fried chicken, which is bolded, by the way, barbecue ribs, baked macaroni and cheese, sugary fruit drinks and sweets such as sweet potato pie, which are typical soul food meals. You scroll down a little bit, and what is soul food? Where was it? Because I just had it. Because here we go. Soul food. Damn it. I opened up so many different portions. Hold on a second. Okay. Soul food. Why is soul food soul food? Soul food is an ethnic cuisine traditionally prepared and eaten by African Americans, originated from the southern United States. The expression soul food originated in the mid 1960s, when soul was common use to describe African American culture. That's from Wikipedia. So then you go further down the rabbit hole. What did slaves eat? Now, we all know that our food, that especially soul food itself, is derived from the changes that we've done through history after how we used to eat as slave when it comes to chitlins and things like that. Number one, disgusting.
Let's not get into it.
But I'm not going to yuck anybody's yum. If that's your thing, that's your thing. Please don't put that on my plate. Please don't cook it in my house. Please don't bring it to my house. Okay. So, let's say like there's this, what did slaves eat for dinner? Today's meal is kitchen pepper rabbit, hominy, and okra soup. This would have been a typical meal for an enslaved person. Different versions of okra soup were eaten in the South, where corn was a staple, and rabbit would have been hunted by slaves to eat further up. But it doesn't. Now, this is just by Google, but obviously there's so much more information, and we all as Black people know what's been passed down from generation to generation. For myself, honestly, I think when it comes down to soul food, I may eat that now as an adult. I want to say maybe once every 3 to 6 months. Only because it's so heavy. Mm-hmm. And I now, as I've gotten older, now that as I'm into my 40s, now the food does not process the same, obviously, because the food isn't made the same. It doesn't digest the same. And also, I'm more aware of the disparities and all the health issues that come along with a lot of these things. Like, I can't eat. I know diabetes run really strong in my family. I am pre-diabetic. So I've already been tested. I have to make sure I'm on top of how much sugar I contain. Because I don't want to prick my finger. I don't want to have diabetes.
And I think that's the thing that, like, we as a community, well, one, like the world, but then also like we as a community are working towards is just kind of educating ourselves more on health and what we're putting in our bodies. And you see like a lot of that information being dispersed in the Black community. I know we're talking a lot about like, you know, like what slaves used to eat and how that translates to what we used to eat. But like, let's also keep in mind that a lot of the food that they had available to them during slavery was one factor. But then the other factor was, you know, they were eating for survival. And part of that was really eating carb heavy food because, you know, they were out working like a dog every single day, sun up to sundown, and even past those hours. So they needed like that carb heavy food to like sustain them and give them the energy to complete their tasks throughout the day. We don't have the same challenges today, and that's why our diet needs to be different. And I think more than anything, we need to change our relationship to food. And that's why I brought up the how often do you eat like soul food kind of thing. Because for me specifically, like soul food for me is a treat. Like it's not something that I eat. It's not a regular part of my diet. It is like, it's a treat like that I typically indulge in during special occasions. So like a holiday, 4th of July, Labor Day, cookout, like kind of food. Like I know that I'm going to go and indulge in this type of food and I look forward to it, but I also prepare for it, you know, like, okay, I'm going to eat really carb heavy, you know, or I'm going to eat a lot of, you know, food that I don't normally eat. Let me do my best to prepare my body for that. And then the remainder of the time, I try to be very conscious about what it is that I'm eating. But again, that runs into what we first started talking about was what's available to us and what's convenient for us.
Mm-hmm.
You know, on top of convenience, I think it's also very important to note that it's how we were brought up and how we were raised. If you were raised as always eating those foods and that's the norm and never to try anything new or never to try and at the very minimum also trying to regulate it, then I think it's it's another barrier for you to get around because you go, well, I want to eat what I want to eat and I just want to be happy and just be done with it. And while that works in a very ideal world, you know that you can't just eat whatever you want to eat because it has repercussions in terms of how often you do it, how much you do it in, you know, how rich the food is. Like the other day at work, I was, you know, from time to time, I do bring food to work. And I had a bowl of, it was carrots and it was something else. And I had my little, you saw me earlier, PJ, eating this, the applesauce or whatever. I actually I love applesauce. It looks like the little packets that you would give to a kid, but they're not. It's
good for your digestive system.
But they're not necessarily for kids. It's just they're just put in a traditionally kiddie packet. But it's good because it's 3.17 ounces. It's small. You eat it and then you're done with it. You don't just keep eating and eating and eating. And then I was eating carrots because I genuinely like raw food. I like raw vegetables. I love carrots or like snap peas and I can't tell you how many times people have come up to me and they've gone, "Why are you eating that rabbit food?"
Wow. You know, it's oh my God, that's so annoying. I love like I was about to get up and get a carrot right now. I mean, like it's so interesting how like as an adult, you know, your palate changes, right? So as a kid, Brussels sprouts were disgusting. Well, when I tell you right now, Brussels sprouts is probably one of my favorite vegetables to eat. Mm-hmm. And number one, it has a really strong taste, but it's also how you cook it. Cook it with a little bit of garlic. You
open up the packets of Brussels sprouts and you put it right into the trash can. That's exactly what.
Okay, so it's so interesting, like how we change as we get older, right? And so as we were thinking about having this conversation, I literally came in the house and I opened my refrigerator door. And I just sat in there and I looked at it and I was just like, what in here is considered healthy and what in here is not considered healthy? And I had to take like stock exactly on what I have. Mm-hmm. And I'm at a good like 75% versus, 75% being healthy versus the other stuff. And the other stuff that wasn't healthy, I got rid of 10% of that because I just can't seem to get rid of pudding.
Well, and then that's the other side of things too, is, just as much as we're talking about cutting, trying to put more healthy foods in our diet, it doesn't have to be like you have to eat 100% healthy all of the time in order to be, a healthy individual. Like, you can have, the processed food here and there. I think the thing is like making sure that that's not the staple. Again, like that's the treat. That's the treat. It's not the what is the phrase that I'm trying to say? It's like it's the exception. It's not the rule. There we go. Okay. That's what I was trying to say.
So let me ask you guys, what is your typical, if you had to choose a healthy routine to eat, what would you say is your typical routine or a healthy meal from morning to evening?
Honestly, like I said, like I'm getting back into meal prepping. I think I mentioned that on the show before, but I actually meal prep today for the week. And ideally, I like to try to have meals that are made from raw food. So I don't want to include like any type of like packaged foods or processed, foods like in my meal. I want like raw, like whole ingredients. So for breakfast, I have, I made like an egg, sausage, pepper, cheese kind of omelet scramble type thing. For lunch, I made vegetable soup. So it's celery, carrots, onions, green beans, peas, chicken stock, tomatoes, and then for dinner, I have salmon and rice, so like whole real foods, nothing that like comes like, prepackaged or pre-processed. For me, that makes me know that I'm eating actual food and not manufactured food, which is where a lot of like they add like a lot of the additives and like unnecessary ingredients, preservatives, all that stuff.
And it's so interesting that you go there. I'm gonna ask you too, Chris, to answer. I'm ready to answer in a second, because as I've gotten older, I've realized how it affects me in general is not just my mood, but my presentation. Right. So like Blair, your skin is always flawless. Oh, well, right. And I know that I have at times go through these like bad skin patches. And then sometimes it looks great and then other times it doesn't, but it's because of what I've put in my body. Mm-hmm. Right. And I have to take stock in that. So I've been trying my best to stick to a routine that actually works. I don't know how to food prep breakfast. That's something cooked.
That's some recipes.
Okay. Yes. Yes. Come on, share. All right. Go ahead. Answer the question, Rhett, and then I have some.
For me, I eat a lot of. I tend to eat a little bit more protein because of the fact that I go to the gym more often. But it kind of goes back to what I had mentioned before, that my issue is not necessarily what I'm eating, because I always eat, for the most part, really whole foods, things that aren't processed. My problem is that if I miss a meal, because so you have calories and then you have like macros, they're called, which is what makes up the calories. So my problem is that because my macros are so stringent, if I miss a meal, then what happens is that I get very antsy and now I have to eat now. So will I eat that fried chicken? Probably, because I'm missing so many other different things. So as long as I eat consistently throughout the day, like at my allotted times, I find that I'm more on track than not, and I don't eat terrible foods.
And it's hard to be so strict and regimented like that 100% of the time.
I mean, and it's extremely harder, especially what we've had to go through these past 2 years. Everybody put on the quarantine, the COVID-25. Everybody put it on, no matter who you are.
Look,
we all did.
It really was 25 pounds. I'm over here working to try to get that 25 pounds off of me.
Listen, and it's on May too. It's the only person who is not on is Red, and we just don't understand it. But he's going out to the gym. He's doing his. He be doing his Doug Fizzle. He be doing his 1, 2. But oh yeah, nigga. But so for me, like, since my body doesn't break down fiber the right way, I have to eat excessive fiber. Mm-hmm. So, which also fills me up, which also makes me bloated. So then there's a way I have to balance that out with like some acidic food, but I can't have too much acidity in my system because I run the risk of having like acid reflux. So there's like all these different things and all these different like trying to figure out how can we actually, especially as we get older. And the reason why we really want to have this conversation, guys, is because it was gonna flow a little differently, but everything goes the way it naturally goes. And Black History Month is not just about history. It's not just about it is about history, but it's more about our heritage, where we come from. How can we as a people make each other better? And there are several different aspects. We've talked a lot about on this podcast about mental health. We've talked a little bit about physical health. A little bit about what we eat. Shout out to Carolina Bolivar, who was one of our original episodes. If you want to go back down the rabbit hole in our old episodes. But we really want to get on this new tip, especially since as we're getting older as a podcast, as we're getting older as individuals, how have we changed our modes of thinking since then? And I'm curious to hear about how any of you guys, any of you listeners, what do you guys do in reference to trying to eat healthier? How do you force yourself to stay on your regimen? How do you encourage your friends to put down that fried chicken and pick up a piece of grilled chicken or whatever have you, and not the vegan versus eating meat conversation? Because
Lord Jesus,
baby,
absolutely not.
No, honey.
If you for it, then okay, but
no. Okay, exactly. So
it's the elitism that comes from
okay, like the hierarchy really of food
rubs me the wrong way. It was so funny. Back when we were out and about in the world, I remember at church one time the pastor was like, look, if somebody's vegan, they will make sure that you know that they are vegan. And a friend of mine at the time had just switched over to practicing veganism, and every 2 minutes it was something about, well, vegan this and vegan that. I was like, oh my God, it's we get it.
And then the same can be gone for those who are very religious and those who aren't. They'll let you know that we're very religious at the same time. It's just like so funny how like a lot of these things.
It's like, ooh, Lord
it's all about like perception and pushing other people to do whatever it is that you want to do, but do what is good for yourself. And I think that everybody needs to take some time, no matter how old you are. You can start now to actually try to just slowly remove certain things from your diet. And trying to improve them. Blair, I'm going to be hawking you for these recipes because I need them as soon as possible. And Red again,
remove and replace.
Remove and replace.
That's the thing we need to think about.
Correct.
We're so focused on like, I can't eat this, I can't eat that, I can't eat this, I can't eat that. But what about the things that you can't eat? What about the things that alternatives? Think of it more along that way. You're not losing a daughter, you're gaining a son.
And can I just add one thing? I think, and this is important for people to like really realize.
Did you like the example that I used there?
As she said, it's her face. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I just want to point out to people, because a lot of people think that when they do things, it's just going to be cold turkey, right? So you're, all right, I eat ice cream every day, and now they're telling me I should not eat ice cream every day. The thing about it is that all of these changes, it takes 3 months at least to break a habit and create a new one. So just put it into that perspective and give yourself some grace. If you don't get it right the first time, keep doing it until you hit that 3-month mark. Mm-hmm. And then that's when you should start reevaluating. But you'll see an improvement if you can even get that far.
All right, guys. So thank you so much, guys, for taking the time to listen to another episode of this motherfucking podcast called Highly Motherfucking Melanated.
Food version.
Wait, this is my smooth, sexy voice. We are so glad to have you here. We hope that you loved and enjoyed what you heard. When it's late,
come on,
at night, and it's time to unwind.
I'm all jamming over here.
You better sing the Quiet Storm theme song.
All right, guys. As always, follow us on all forms of social media that we're part of, such as Instagram. That is Highly Melanated Podcast.
Make sure to email us at highlymelanatedpodcast@gmail.com.
And if y'all a little bit hungry, I mean, I won't just have carrots. I will have other things too. So come on over to Twitter at @H_melanatedpod.
All right, guys. And now stay tuned again. Pretty soon, we are going to have an 800 number, guys, where you guys can actually leave messages for. We would love to hear from you. Also, we are going to be more active within the social media realm. So be prepared to see a bunch of retweets and a bunch of comments, and we will be out there in them Twitter streets.
In the Twitterverse.
But we'll be there. And as always, guys, thank you for taking the time, and peace, love.
And definitely not chicken grease.
Wait a minute. Why was I about to say the exact same thing? I really was. Like word for word.
Oh, yeah. Peace, love, and we got to do better. We can do better, and we will do better. That's all.
By not using chicken grease. And I'm out.
Okay.